Afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the Red Beans and Fried Rice podcast. This is Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, as the girl turns writer, reinvention coach, ERYT 500 yoga instructor, and your co host with my other co host, Mr. Marc.
Mark Ang, AIB2B.org, local community organizer, and very, very busy these days. So happy to be here. And we got so much to talk about today. I'm excited, Jennifer.
Well, what are you busy with?
Oh my goodness, where does it start? All of this activism. It's like, I've been saying to you the last few episodes how it feels like an election year.
Yes.
But I guess it is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mr. Recall going on that just got officially certified recently. But do we know when that's actually going to be on the ballot, or when are we be able to vote? Is it November?
They expect October, November, just because they still want him in office to sign in all their rotten legislation. So they're going to drag it out as long as they can. But I think October, once basically they are on, after people are able to reject their signatures or take their signatures off. That's such a laugh. I'm still laughing over that because we've got more than enough signatures, even if someone does, and who knows if they have or not. But they have until June 8th to do that. And once that date passes, the clock ticks. So they have to set how much this recall is going to cost. They're talking 400 million, and I'm like, well, you're trying to give away money back to us. Use that for the recall. I don't need a stimulus check.
Right.
Go ahead and use that for the recall so we can get you out of here. So Amen. they have 30 to 60 days to set the amount, and then once the amount is set, how much it's going to cost, then our lieutenant governor is required to set a date.
Eleni?
Yes, Alini, the real estate baron's daughter.
God, it's so funny. The Democrats truly are the party of the elite and all.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, heavy. They throw money at everything in order to get it done. They have no interest in. They're called Democrats, but they have no interest in a democratic process. They don't.
Not at all.
They're interested in influencing you so that it can go their way.
Speaking of, that segues greatly into what you just asked me about, what's going on. I'm sure we follow each other very closely on our Facebooks, and I had posted the LA Times had covered my rally down in Los Alamitos School District, where we were protesting the insertion of critical race theory into the schools even before the board approved it. So this is the kind of brazenness and lack of care for their constituents that is standard operating procedure. Apparently
it's backdoor dealing, because basically they're saying, we're going to put it up for a vote, but really we're already seeing how we can insert it. We're already inserting it, and we just want you to agree with it. We just want to go through the formality.
Absolutely.
People have to approve it and have to say whether they like it or don't like it. And apparently a lot of parents do not like it.
What a cumbersome process, right? I mean, you have to actually go to the people you represent and get their...
I know, it's horrible.
Oh my God.
I have to actually talk to them. I have to actually get their opinions.
Yeah, I have to share a room with them where their COVID germs maybe in the air.
Oh my!
So that was really funny because really how this all got triggered was you can talk about some of the anecdotal things that went on. Apparently in Oak Middle School, which is one of the schools in Los Alamitos, one of the parents who will be unnamed was one of the people that came to my initial critical race theory events in our kickoff in March. But they had already in Los Alamitos had a group of mama bears that were already a little concerned about what was going on. And what happened was one of these white kids in 7th grade at Oak Middle School received an assignment from their teacher, Miss Garza. This seventh grade teacher was passing out an assignment to the white kids in class, and it's to go home and write an essay about why am I a racist? And that's the exact quote. Why am I a racist? So embedded in that question already is the presumption that a seventh grade child is racist,
It's
and that kid
racist. Yeah.
went home and was
Because it's
hurt.
inbred, right? Because it's inbred in whiteness, according to the critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
Or now, I have noticed this, and I'm sure you have. They're starting to change the language. Now it's ethnic studies,
Right.
in order to try to mask that they are just inserting critical race theory.
The Los Alamitos superintendent is actually saying that ethnic studies curriculum is not critical race theory, as if you can completely separate the two, and that none of this critical race theory ideology is ever going to seep in just because you change the name and call it something else.
Right. It's like, no, it's
Pound
cake made with bananas, as opposed to it's not a banana.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And actually, what was very fascinating was last night I was invited to speak in another one of these town halls. Los Alamitos. We did that a few weeks back, and we got about 250 people at that town hall. People were outraged, and this time we did it in Tustin. And the parent that organized it, I asked her, so I got there early. I had a nice chat with her and said, what inspired you to do this? And she said, I was concerned because my ninth grade kid came back home with another assignment to write about white savior complex. And I said, oh my goodness, this is actually happening in so many different schools already. It's just like targeted racism against white people to make white kids feel bad. And this has already been happening. Okay. Yeah. So I have noticed this because, I hire a lot of interns, and, some of these interns are very ashamed of being white. Yes, and I said, how could you feel that way? That's really bad. That's like low self-esteem. Our teachers should be uplifting the students and not causing them to feel this way. Right. So she herself was a very, she, like most reasonable people, I think, did their research, and she went to our Los Alamitos town hall. Then she still said, well, maybe it's not happening in my district, the Tustin Unified School District. She went in and asked the superintendent all these questions, and she finally realized, oh my God, it is happening, because there is a curriculum by a radical left called Steely. The Steely curriculum. And she very casually just asked, oh, what is the name of the curricula that's being inserted in our school district? And they very casually said, oh, it's Steely. So, she knew right then and there, oh my goodness. And we had done our in-depth presentation by my African-American friend and activist, Harriet Reed, had done all the research on Steely and had this great presentation at both of these town halls. And so we got to see the inside of really what these words mean, what these assignments, are. And it was, so it was really great to get a testimonial from a real parent who did her research and who actually went to her other district superintendent to figure things out. Meanwhile, let me tell you this, another angle that we should, explore today was the media. The media was very quick to only take one side of, almost protecting the superintendent in Los Alamitos that was getting all of these, all of the hits. Basically, people were,
that. Yeah, I noticed that, as well as it followed up with, I guess, the next meeting they had children and a couple of the teachers and people saying, no, we want to know more about our heritage. You people are racist. Use the children as props.
Yes, yeah, parade them out and completely ignore the parental outcry and vilifying the parents as right-wing extremist groups, or vilifying them as, outside interest groups. That's really the catch-all phrase they use. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. So
This is
Harriet
not
actually
grassroots. This is just astroturf. You people are
Astro,
outside,
exactly.
you
That's
know.
what they did to us in 2019. Just so you know, when I did a lot of the sex ed stuff, they said,
Yeah.
"Oh no, it's not happening." Yeah, it is. And and if you opt out, your peers, your kids' peers, will still taunt them for that because
Yes.
that's being taught, like, as a standard, as a general thing. So it was surprising. Seal Beach Sun covered this in a very, very biased way, only talking about the Los Alamitos superintendent side and defending them, and then labeling parents as astroturf. But the LA Times was surprisingly more fair in their coverage.
Hmm.
And so you heard about that meeting. Antifa was there, and to the point that there was a lot of issues and back and forth and fighting, and luckily no major
Antifa.
altercations.
I mean, this is when you know there's a problem. You have to
Right.
call in Antifa.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously,
To a
you allow
local school board meeting.
you allow, and exactly, a local school board, and you allow Antifa in.
Right.
There's something wrong there. Obviously, you don't want somebody to be heard.
Yes,
It's
exactly. So
amazing.
then, because Antifa was there and causing all these issues and preventing people. So Harriet was actually in that meeting. It was fascinating. She was the fifth in line for that meeting, but became the 75th to actually speak that night. So
Yeah.
they went out to they stacked it with people on the left, and
Hmm.
they all signed up. They were able to sign up on a link that wasn't sent out to
To
everyone at
everyone.
9
Yeah.
a.m. in the morning.
That's what they do with the stuff that now they're not even letting you call in with the legislature, but that is exactly what they do with the
Hmm.
legislature. Oh, we're changing it now. We can only allow so many people, or you only have 1 minute. How do you explain anything in 1 minute? How do you
Right.
it's all types of dirty tricks that they use to
Hmm.
waste it in their again, it's about they are not, they know that their argument is spurious, and
Hmm.
so they have to weight it in their direction and delegitimize your argument.
Totally. And that's also, so what was very interesting was Saturday night, the next school board meeting after that, which was on the 27th of last month, was this week on the 11th. So they have it
Okay.
every other Tuesday night. So we decided that we're gonna, get as many parents in and go to public comment. And the meeting was supposed to be at 3 o'clock, where you can sign up to talk at the meeting later on. And what happened was on Saturday night, parents and the whole Los Al district got an email that said they're suddenly moving to Zoom. So of course they don't want to face this.
Running scared.
So I put up all these memes of COVID or hiding, because they cited COVID. They said, "Oh,
Yeah.
due to COVID concerns,
Oh,
we're going to move
good
this."
Lord. Seriously? I thought
Mhm.
everybody was vaccinated. We'll get to that in a
The
minute.
president today, which we'll get to in a little bit, the
Yeah.
president and the vice president have decided not to wear masks anymore.
I know. Could it be all of those questions
Curious.
of, if we're vaccinated, why do we keep having to wear masks? Why do you wear
Yes.
two masks?
Yes. So now from
Takes
2 to 0, it's very abrupt. Yeah.
yeah,
Let's just take it all off now. From
unmasked.
fully clothed and burqa'd up to naked.
Yeah,
You gotta love this virus. It is so smart. It's
it,
amazing.
it
It's
really
like,
is. It really is. My favorite way of how smart it is that it's around when you walk into the restaurant with your mask. But as soon as you sit down at the table and take it off, boom,
uh,
the virus
uh,
disappears, it's gone. And then it
amazing.
knows to come back after you put your mask on. It's
Yes. Or go to the bathroom. You must,
yeah, yeah.
be
The
very
virus
careful.
says, "Oh, I need to follow her now. She's going to the
Yes.
bathroom." As if
What a
there's not enough
smart.
germs in the bathroom that are more deadlier than
Yeah,
COVID.
exactly. Right. It's amazing. So, it's so back to kind of what I was saying. We decided that Saturday night to actually do we said, we have all these parents that are organized to come at 3 p.m. in front of the Los Al School District board. I'm
Right.
like, you know what? I think the media should hear about this. So I said, let us go ahead and do this. Why get everyone on Zoom and
Yeah.
let them take the wind out of our sails and just hold a rally. And we had all our contingency plans and had our security detail there.
Mm-hmm.
Our security dressed up as Antifa to obscure it, because one thing we
Good.
learned
Mm-hmm.
at the event was that because our security was dressed like Antifa that actually came got confused and were trying to
Nice.
talk to our security. So I was shocked to find out that these people are not as coordinated as you
No,
think.
no, and they're also not very bright.
Yeah, clearly.
This is what I hear from activists on the ground who do the same thing, basically infiltrate them, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So they wouldn't be hard to control if,
Mm-hmm.
or should I say, they wouldn't be hard to mitigate if
Mm-hmm.
we had a government that bothered to take them seriously and mitigate them. But we don't.
Right. And remember, Antifa's website connects to the White House, just so you know. I mean,
Yep.
they're really in it like this.
Mhm.
And what was fascinating too, OC Register reported on our story on our rally, and they chose instead to not mention Antifa at all, but mention the
Interesting.
fact that the Proud Boys were there. Now, the Proud Boys, let me tell you the facts on the ground. The Proud Boys were not there visibly. There were some Proud Boys that I know that are really good, upstanding citizens in the community that happen to be part of this organization,
Mm-hmm.
and they were there because they have security experience and to de-escalate situations should they occur.
Okay.
So there were individual Proud Boys, but the organization was not. So I find it very interesting that instead of reporting accurately and fairly, they did put that subtle dig and
Mm-hmm.
did not mention Antifa.
Yeah.
So thankfully Fox or no, KTLA 5 decided to mention that it was that Antifa was causing problems. So it's very interesting because it kind of leads me to the point of what I love to do is like work with media.
Mm-hmm.
As a conservative, I really don't like it when other conservatives, and that's a majority of conservatives, are scared of even talking to media, and they vilify people that should not be vilified. And I
Right.
had a very great experience with CBS this time. We actually had a woman named Stacey Butler who came, and she was alarmed at all of the Antifa looking people. And I said, there's a reason to this. But eventually, after she got over her fears, we had an interview, which was widely distributed on their station, to the point that I had so many people call me and say, "Hey, I saw you on TV, this and that." I said, "Oh, that's cool, and I'm glad it was CBS that had marketed this and put it out there, to the point that LA Times picked up my quote from that video and then quoted me. And so I think I can die happy now. I managed to get New York Times and LA Times to to quote me, not just cover
That's
me, but
pretty
to quote.
major. Yeah, and quote
So,
you
but
accurately.
quoted exactly, accurately, and without twisting the words around, and also putting it in a good context.
Nice.
So, but I think one of the things that helped that was I did talk to Stacey, and I said really focus on the white shaming part. And she's a white woman. She had her
Yeah.
mask on, so I know she's probably a left leaning. And I
Yeah.
said, is it okay that your kid would come home with an assignment like, "Why am I racist?" And
Mm-hmm.
I think it really moved her. I think she understood that the threat of the far left was maybe even overcoming her democratic tendencies.
Yeah. And that would be that's a beautiful picture of what is happening in our state.
It's amazing. Yes.
Our half democratic, left winging progressive state.
Exactly.
It's not about, oh, I must back a Democrat no matter what. It's, why are you trying to destroy my children?
Amen. Or
The-
try to have gas shortages to the point that gas is at $6 a gallon now. I mean, it's crazy. It's that
yeah.
what they're doing. And I also finally wanted to share my experience with NBC.
Mhm.
NBC had called me, when I released my press release, and said, we want to meet you for a quote. We're getting a reporter, photographer out. So I drove to Los Alamitos early, 3 hours before the event, because they couldn't come and cover the actual event. I said, okay, that's fine. I'll cover it. So they went through all this effort and they asked me all of these very, very slanted questions. Why are you against ethnic studies? I'm like, no, I'm not against ethnic studies. ethnic studies is a good thing. The problem is it's being used as a vehicle for special interest groups.
Right.
And I gave them nothing to tie a rope around me with. And they ended up not even covering the story at all after getting the photographer and the reporter out to get my quote.
Because it
So
wasn't going to bleed.
yes.
Doesn't
And
bleed,
I
it
found
doesn't
that
bleed.
fascinating. I found out that every time they make a trip like that, it's like 1,000 to $1,500 to do
Really?
that.
Wow.
Yeah, fascinating, right? Because
So why
you
so why would you waste your time doing that if you're not going to write a story, at least an
right.
op-ed or so, that seems
Hmm.
kind of wasteful to me.
And I think it probably has to do in the editorial board or whoever is cutting these stories and saying, okay, we're going to scrap this one. This doesn't put our agenda in a good light.
Right.
So that was very fascinating to me. So, but all in all, we had KTLA 5 covered our entire event. We had local media and bloggers cover, all this stuff, so you can see it. And I'm going to give a plug to Costa Mesa Brief, which I guess is a very small and new citizens blogger and YouTube group. But you can see that they even set up a microphone to get a better sound than anyone else. So really want to look at their footage because there's a good, honest journalists that are trying to get the word out unfiltered, and it's on Rumble, so I have it on my website. And yeah, we want to support all of these, and we had a total of about 15 media there. So if Red State wants to cover it and you want to do an article, Jennifer, I'm happy to give you some exclusive quotes on what went on, because that was a really special
Yeah.
day. We had about
Now,
200 people there,
so
moms.
so 200 people at that last Los Alamitos rally.
Yeah. The rally that was supposed to be at the board meeting that they moved to Zoom, we did
Right.
a protest anyways, and 200 people showed up, and I had about 30 speakers come up. So they all had about 2 to 3 minutes. And, we heard from a grandma who was like, I've been a lifelong Democrat. I cannot accept what is going
I
on.
can't
This is
stand these people.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. And we had a dad, Matt Simmons, I believe is his name. Great guy, so articulate, just talking about how this really shakes him to the core, because he has kids in middle school and high school. And that was so powerful to hear from the actual residents, not, so talk about busting the narrative that it's right-wing extremist groups. It was all just a regular, everyday folk. And also on top of that, we had such a multicultural. I mean, I hate to tokenize. I mean, I hate that, because I look
Yeah.
at people as people. But someone talked to me after and said, "Wow, that was like the United Nations of things." There were so many different people. They had immigrants, that live in Los Alamitos and
Yeah.
Seal Beach and Rossmore. There were people from Australia, India. And then who else had an accent? There were all these accents going on. I was like, wow. And we're all united.
Because they recognize that
Mhm.
trying to demonize one class of people is just going to blow back on them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It as well as it's just building a false narrative.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
not building an appreciation for other cultures and other races by demonizing and saying you're the problem. And
Right.
we need
Mm-hmm.
to hold these races up. What trips me out is that they don't actually teach anything.
Yes.
They do all of these questions and supposedly deconstruct racism and all this stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't teach any facts about what encompasses a certain ethnic group.
Oh yeah. And I've really thought about this racism thing, and obviously our podcast is very much around, unity and love, and our friendship, Jennifer. I mean, it's a very special thing we're doing here. And I really thought about race, and I thought about how fascinating it is that a person, an indigenous a Native American in Alaska looked very much like an Asian person. Because if you think about it, these political lines of the different countries are just those lines. You have people that, our features end up evolving to all look the same, when you kind of like go around the world. So let's say people in Northern Africa have a lot whiter skin,
Mhm.
and they're Africans, but they're
Right.
whiter skin and more, and they almost look like what someone in Sicily or Italy would look like,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Because we're just humans and we mix. Once
Yeah.
we get together, we mix, and then there's all of these features come together. And then you have people in India that are, I feel like Indians are a cross between uh, uh, East Asians and Black people, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like in the end, we all bleed the same, obviously, but we're all the same kind of people. So these arbitrary lines are very hard to draw. Half the world is Asian. So
Yeah.
in this country, we're a minority, but we're 50% of the world.
And what do you do? Because we have been joining together and unifying and mixing and marrying.
Yes.
What about biracial children or triracial children?
And I'm just so sad that Kamala Harris, of all people, does not come out to talk about this, about her heritage, her background in a substantive way, in a way that actually says, let me celebrate the unification of, my Jamaican heritage and my Indian side.
She does not care. First of all, she probably wouldn't even acknowledge her She doesn't really acknowledge her Jamaican heritage. They want her. They like riding her train, but she doesn't acknowledge it. She doesn't talk to her father. Doesn't talk about her father.
Mhm.
She is also, a one of, she jumps on the Howard train because she went to Howard, and she pulls the black card when it's convenient for her.
Yeah. And
But she,
notice her accent changes too.
yeah, oh, that's just Democrat pandering.
Oh, yeah.
They, they think they're trying to talk to a particular
Yeah.
audience, and so they, like Hillary Clinton when she went to that black
Oh,
church. I don't feel no ways tired. It's like, what planet are you on?
and hot sauce in
Yeah,
your
carrying hot sauce in her purse.
that's pretty messy. That should, especially in hot weather.
And what upsets me more is that black people suck it in, or should I say, not all black people,
Yeah.
their constituents suck it in. I remember when Joe Biden was vice president, and this
Right.
was during the 2012 election. Mitt Romney, that's another story, but he went to that church and talked about,
Mhm.
Mitt Romney's talking about unchain Wall Street. He gonna put you all in chains, and they just laughed and cackled and cheered. And it's like, why didn't someone stand up to him and say, "Why are you pandering to us? Why are
Mhm.
you using racial illusions to talk about financial literacy and Wall
Mhm.
Street, which black people should know more about?"
Right.
Why are you doing this? You're not
Mhm.
helping us. You're pandering to us because you want our vote. And no
Right.
one stands up and says that. I listened to a whole panel discussion. Boyce Watkins is someone that I kind
Mhm.
of watch peripherally. He doesn't take any political side. He's a finance guy and a
Mhm.
pro black guy in terms of we want
Mhm.
to uplift and support our own people and help them to be financially literate and help them to be successful. But I want to see success, so I'm on board with that too. Not just all pro black, but that people learn about being successful. I know I
Right.
want to for sure. He did a panel of black intellectuals, black people who are involved in the community,
Mhm.
and one of them in particular called out the black leadership that just keeps sucking up to the White House or keeps sucking up to
Mhm.
these leaders who come into the community and basically gin us up for votes, and then once
Right.
they get the vote they don't do anything. I mean, who was first in line in Biden's executive orders? Was it black people? No, it was transgenders. So this is how he feels about the black race. But yeah, all those mean tweets of Trump.
Oh, yeah.
you know, it so it it bothers me. It wounds and grieves me,
Mhm.
that there's not somebody in that community standing up and saying, "Stop this. This is not right."
And I think that's
Calling them out on their mess.
right. And I think that's why Senator Tim Scott's voice is so important in this day and age.
And that's why they had to tear him down.
It's amazing.
If you notice the attacks, it had absolutely nothing to do with the substance of what he said. They were
Hmm.
tearing him down because he is a Black conservative and has a powerful story that you cannot refute. And of course, Glenn Kessler, that idiot from Washington Post or one of the rags,
Hmm.
trying to fact check his family background. It's just like, okay, this is
Yeah.
a
Pretty
desperate thing to
insulting.
do. It is insulting. It was insulting to him. It's insulting to anyone who can. I don't care what color you are. Tim
Right.
Scott's story is an awesome story. Senator Tim Scott's story is an aspirational and inspirational story for any
Yes.
race, but
Hmm.
especially for the Black race. And
Right.
the fact that they want to tear him down, it really just upsets me.
Yeah. Martin Luther King is rolling in his grave right now. I mean, this is just pathetic how people are acting towards successful, accomplished Black men and women that don't toe the Democrat line.
Right. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
amazing.
And again, you don't even have to be Republican or conservative. As I said,
Yes.
Watkins is not, he wants nothing to do with any political party.
Right.
But he doesn't toe the line. And so he gets maligned.
Hmm.
He gets made fun of. Apparently, he tweeted about Gabrielle Union. I don't know if you know who she is.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
an actress that's very
She's married
leftist,
to
right?
Dwayne Wade. Yeah. She did some type of mocking piece on an HBO special about conscious Blacks, meaning Blacks who are about let's empower us, let's support us,
Hmm.
and not support a party. It's about making us literate, making us sound, and she just totally maligned and made fun of them.
That's ridiculous. And I'll tell you, I was on the board of a Black chamber. So, the community I live in, I'm pretty much, I call San Bernardino County my home. And San Bernardino is one of the most impoverished Black cities. It's a majority Black, and
Yeah.
it's just been destroyed by just a lot of corruption, to the point now that they're electing Republican mayors because it
Good.
got that bad.
Finally.
There was, yes. And now I'm seeing some improvement. It's amazing. The Cal State San Bernardino area is now becoming a hot spot to the point that I can't even afford living there. It's
Wow.
becoming a very nice area with, really safe. There's not much crime there.
Yeah.
And so San Bernardino, when people think about it, they think crime ridden, poverty ridden.
Definitely.
But you start in certain neighborhoods and you start improving them, putting jobs in, and having smart public policy such as incentives for businesses and maybe a few tax breaks here and there, but still enforcing an independent mentality, a free market mentality to uplift
In
the
other
community.
words, they created opportunity zones.
Right. And wow, just a matter
for
of,
African Americans to thrive.
a few years, you suddenly have growth, and you have property values increasing, and almost like a renaissance of middle class, working class Black professionals. I'm like, that's what I love to see, because I see that all over the South, in red states, in racist red states. You see so many, a really good class of Southern Black Christians that have great communities where they take care of each other. They destroy that in urban areas. They promote the single motherhood. They promote the welfare, dependent on welfare, not the whole, okay, welfare to get you up off your feet. It's the, hey, just hang out with this for decades of your life and feel entitled. That's what I find.
It's about dependency on government.
Right.
Because whatever the system, it's a government system.
Yes.
and they want certain people dependent, and they elevate. I saw this in Chicago growing up. They elevate certain people out of the community
Hmm.
to be the leaders and, promote this and promote the agenda, and to
Hmm.
keep certain people down and to pull certain people up who will suit the agenda. But it's all about the agenda. It's not
Right.
Black uplift. It's not about individual freedom or opportunity. It's about promoting that same agenda.
It's so negative, isn't it? And let me tell you, I just I think a couple of weeks ago, I sat down and watched the movie Judas. Have you seen that?
I've not,
Judas is
isn't it?
Judas came out last year. It was by a director named Shaka King. I thought at first it was Shaka Khan, who I absolutely love, but no, there's Shaka King, and he is a first-time filmmaker, but he did the story of the Black Panthers and how the and it followed from the perspective of the informant slash snitch that snitched out, the operations of Black Panthers, and pretty much led to the death of the guy who started the Black Panthers. What's his Fred? I think that
Yeah,
yeah,
Hampton.
and he died at like 22, I believe, at a very young age,
Mm-hmm.
and left behind a young son. So
Yeah.
that whole story was chronicled, and I said, "Wow, this is very powerful to see to see that story, and also how much uh, you know people were bought off around him to
Yes.
so that's another thing where you cannot achieve great things or a great community if you don't work together. And I feel that that's what the government tries to do, and what the left tries to do. They prevent people who are harmoniously working together, and they create divisions,
Yes.
and whether by political lines, by racial lines, and prevent them from just being people, and
Mm-hmm.
working together, because we've shown that in Southern California and a lot of our diverse cities that we can live and work together.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, very sad. But hey, you wanted to get into some pop culture, right? I know
Oh
we talked
yes.
about this.
The Oscars were, I think, a couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently the ratings came out, and they got what 60. The ratings were down, or the viewership was down 60% from the year
Wow.
before, and the
And
year
this
before
sounds
was
like,
pretty abysmal.
yes, that I remember last year was bad. So has this just been on a precipitous decline for the
Pretty
last like
much.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first of
Wow.
all, you don't make movies for people in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and Hollywood Hills. You make movies for the American public. And if you're constantly maligning and virtue signaling and talking down to the American public, I'm going to spend my money elsewhere. I was hanging out with some of the ladies who are part of my Bible study group, and one of them was saying, apparently, uh, this was out in La Crescenta, La Cañada, and
Mm-hmm.
they were saying, "Oh, the theaters are opening up again, United Artists and all of that." And one of the ladies said, "I drove by there and looked at the marquee, and there's nothing I want to see. All of this downer stuff, all of this depressing stuff."
You nailed it. You
Yeah,
nailed it.
yeah. Who wants to go see this stuff? I don't want to go see woke garbage. I want to be entertained. There's enough
Right.
in my world where I have to deal with that stuff. Like you constantly having to,
Yeah.
facilitate and all that stuff. And the last thing you want to do is sit down and watch a movie about protest.
Oh my God. Yes. You nailed it. I
You
want to be
probably
taken
want
to a
to watch, the Three Stooges. I know I would. you know?
no, I want to be taken to a faraway place where I can hear a good story, and something like Avatar. Remember that movie? I just love
Yeah.
that movie. And
No,
with a
that was a bit woke for me too, frankly.
Really? But even that,
Yeah,
you see the standards, right? I could see
right.
past some of the woke stuff back then because they still cared about being entertaining.
Exactly. That's
These
true. I
days,
mean,
it's like,
the messages were way more subtle back then. Now they're
yes,
just bludgeoning you over the head.
yes, the subtlety is out the window.
And I think the last time, obviously, it was probably 2 years. The last time I actually
Hmm.
sat in the theater, went to the movies. We paid
Yeah.
$13 for tickets, and that's on the low end because it was the
Right.
middle of the day, and I got my AMC discount. Because I was
Hmm.
part of a club. I'm not going to pay $13 to see
No.
that. I'm not.
And I'll tell you this: I think a lot of the American public is watching old movies again. So we do have a catalog of
Yeah.
really great old movies that have stood the test of time.
Well, the streaming services are killing it in
Right.
that regard. They recognize, and the pandemic helped, of course.
Hmm.
People have large screen TVs in their home, viewing quality. They don't have to deal with some person talking the plot to to
Right.
someone else next to them.
Hmm.
They don't have to pay $15 for a bowl of popcorn. you
Right.
know, you, you can get and again, I did admit, I said the sensory experience of being in a room with a bunch of people and watching it is part of that event. I truly give that. To this day, I still remember Independence Day. We actually went to see it. I think we went to see it at midnight on July 4th at the theater, and the crowd, the laughter, everything that was going on was just perfect. It was part of the event. It was part of the feel of the whole thing. So there's no way to manufacture that, maybe VR or something, I don't know, but there's no way to manufacture those things. So yeah, that big theater experience is awesome. But again, if you're going to preach at me, if you are going to charge me a whole lot of money for that, I'm sorry, I'm just not having it. I'm just not having it. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So yeah, the movie industry is starting to experience the reckoning for sure of all the things that are wrong with uh basically they're experiencing the reckoning of what happens when you speak down to your audience and when you malign your audience, and it's like you're viewing public, you're paying public is not going to put up with that stuff at all. They're not.
Right. It's amazing that they have gotten so brazen. I mean, down to the sports, right? I mean, you have actual professional sports. That do you have those numbers, Jennifer, on how much the drop off has been on the NBA and MLB and NFL?
Let's look. NFL viewership.
Hmm. I think despite trying to make amends, sometimes you've already burned the bridge there.
NFL viewership 2020. What
Hmm.
does it
Versus.
say? Recap of the 2021 season. While the NFL continues to expand its popularity into a more global sport domestically, it has never been more secure. This is propaganda. Given the unprecedented circumstances of the previous year and uncertainty surrounding the seasons, what impact, if any, did it have on NFL TV ratings? So it says, are NFL ratings up or down from last season? And of
Hmm.
course, no one is safe from the effects of the global situation last year, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
In 2020, the audience for the regular season NFL games dipped across all broadcast
Right.
networks. Duh,
I'm sure.
no surprise. This comes on the heels of 2 years of growth in viewership numbers.
Hmm.
16% NBC Sunday Night Football was down 16%
Hmm.
from viewerships. That's just one. ESPN is in arrears because they're bleeding viewers. Nobody cares.
I bet.
Nobody
Wow.
wants woke anything from ESPN.
Hmm.
9.6 million people on CBS watched Super Bowl whatever the number is. Sorry, I don't
Right.
follow it. LB. But the last Super Bowl, 91.6 million viewers.
That's a lot less than I
The
know
lowest number since
ever.
2007.
Yep.
So 13 years ago,
Yeah. When we had less people.
Even that was considered a low, right? Even that was considered a low number. So nobody wanted to watch the Super Bowl. Did I watch the Super Bowl? I don't even think I did. I didn't bother. But yeah, NFL is down. The National Basketball League is also down. Woke LeBron.
Right.
National Basketball League.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. Yep. It's really bad. These and LeBron. I'm so glad you brought him up. I'm shocked at how he still has a platform. I mean, this guy is so insufferable.
He is insufferable and ill-informed.
Yes.
I mean, again, let's go back to Tim Scott. Talk about, again, aspirational story. LeBron has an aspirational story. No doubt he came from poverty, came from behind, built a life for himself, built a great career as a basketball player. And he also gives back to the community, no doubt. He builds homes, he supports schools, all of that stuff. He does good things. But to act like an insufferable jerk and to jump on this systemic racism train, when if there were true systemic racism, you wouldn't even have a platform. You would be nowhere near the NBA. You want, a minor player. And also talking from the place of an industry that is 95% black.
Right.
How many white players are in the NBA? Again, I'm not a sports person, but the few times I watch it, I see one or two blacks. Hey, this is back in the days of Michael Jordan. I'm Team Bulls and Michael Jordan if I do watch.
Because you are a Chicago
Yes, because I am a Chicago girl. So yeah, and nobody will ever beat that 6P. It'll be a long time.
Yeah.
Before anyone can get those NBA championships. But yeah, the few, one or two white players that are on there, and Larry Bird, those days are gone. It's a bunch of black kids, I think a couple of Serbians.
Yeah.
And they're complaining about systemic racism when they make more than half of the population in one season.
And what's the heart of that is it's the whole getting offended for other people, right? It's almost like, okay, it's an ugly word now to approach your self-interest and to say very honestly, like we used to as a society, Jennifer, you got your needs, I got my needs. Maybe there's a way that we have mutual needs that we can work together on, like on this podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. There's this whole fake undercurrent in society where I have to care about someone else and be very grandstanding about it. Can you just, if you care, can you do it quietly?
Or the someone came up with Bill Gates, talk about, shifting.
Oh, that I want to talk
Bill
about.
and Melinda Gates, who looks strangely a lot like Caitlyn Jenner, but we won't go there. They're getting a divorce. And so his $1 billion will be split down the middle because community property, and they got kids involved and all that stuff, and all types of jizz is coming out about
literally
what a party boy Bill was.
Yes.
But it all got covered up because he's
media.
a horrible human being. The media. He's a horrible human being. I've always thought he was a horrible human being. I mean, first of all, he got his wealth by being a robber baron, by buying out other software and other tech so that he could corner the market.
Robber baron. I love that. Yeah, great word.
Just another robber baron. He was no better than Hearst or, those people that bought out newspapers in order to have dominance.
Right.
But not only that, he spent his money, his global foundation, supporting abortions, going to other countries and supporting people getting abortions in order for him to do his population control thing and experimenting with his vaccines on African and Indian children. And
under the guise of I want to help society. That was so grandstanding, and his whole foundation, it was just all so gross, it's and stop being so, the fakeness just oozed out of that couple. Don't you think?
Totally, because they were totally fake, and we're discovering just how fake he really was.
Yeah,
The parties, the
including that
women.
marriage.
Yeah, totally. It's like, but the media gave him a pass because, well, this person may be an asshole, but they're our asshole, and so we're going.
Right.
It's that's what annoys me about the quote unquote woke left or the celebrity left is that.
Jennifer, you're conjuring too much images of of that I don't want to have in my head. But that's yeah. Ugh. I mean, and what is it? His ex-girlfriend, he would see.
He would see her once a year for a couple of weeks or a couple of, yeah, exactly. It was built into their agreement. Apparently, I guess the prenup or something.
Mhm. That's
I'm
not
not.
normal behavior. That's also very unsanitary. I don't think that's COVID compliant, right? I mean, that's a little.
I truly wonder because I mean I'm sorry and I am married to someone who does not have melanin. But there's nothing attractive about this man. Are we sure the children weren't, test tube babies? Because seriously,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go near him, let alone
Well,
do anything
there's a lot of
about
money there. It
today.
attracts certain gold digging women, so there is a attraction there.
I guess I'm not getting it. But yeah, he is very much emblematic of what is representative in the whole virtue signaling. Oh, it's not
Mhm.
about me. I have all this money, but I'm just giving it away. I could care less.
Yeah.
Frankly, if you're quiet about it and
Yeah.
and you give it away, what did Jesus say?
Mhm.
Be careful not to do your acts before men, so that your
Right.
reward can be from the Father. And then when the Father gives you a reward openly, that's when people
Yes.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah, the stuff that these people do, to make themselves look good is just rather nauseating. And again, it's all phony. It means nothing, especially when they come and start spouting about leftist stuff that is not going to affect them. That's another pet peeve of mine. None of what they spout and preach about is going to affect them. They live in
Right.
Calabasas behind gates.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills and Bel Air behind gates. Baldwin
Mhm.
Hills behind gates. So defund the police is not going to affect them whatsoever. It is going
Right.
to affect me living out in the open in the not so pleasant part of Pasadena because
Right.
every neighborhood has their not so pleasant parts. So
Yeah.
it,
So
it, it
my
affects the people that they claim that they're trying to help, and they're doing us
right.
for good.
The hypocrisy is just rich, and it's so fake. And but I was wondering how much Melinda had to do with steering this type of the foundation activities. So for me, the more fascinating part of the story is where does all their shared efforts as far as the vaccinations and the foundation activities go from here? What's kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, I know that I've written a couple of stories about them, and that's about all I want to do because, as I said, I find them not very nice human beings. Um, she's supposedly staying on with the foundation, even though they're divorced. She's planning on
Oh.
staying on with the foundation. So yeah, I wonder how much of the foundation was really her idea because
Hmm.
she's rather creepy too. You've seen her in interviews
Very
talking about
creepy.
this stuff. So it may very well have been her brainchild, some of this stuff.
And that is not verified. Interesting. I think that any woman that would allow her husband to see an ex-girlfriend has to be like once a year,
Yeah,
has to be a little
there's some
sociopathic.
tweaky there. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely some tweaky there.
Weird. Very weird.
And she was supposedly in 2014. Gates flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane and spent some time at his mansion in New York. And again, the media was radio
Silent.
silent, even after Epstein didn't commit suicide.
Mhm.
They were still radio silent about it.
Let's dig
Uh,
deeper on that. Okay. I think, for the audience that doesn't know exactly what happened there, which news outlet was it? The New York Times that had all of this info on Bill, this dirt on Bill, and chose some high level editor put the kibosh on it.
yep. They did indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had it in actually I think it was it Vanity Fair?
Oh, okay. Yes.
It's in that Netflix Epstein documentary, but yeah, they just totally wiped the story because
Amazing.
and apparently was, casually threatening the writer. Oh, we know where you live.
Wow.
Oh, we see where you go here and there. And apparently, Ghislaine, however she pronounces her name,
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell, was his enforcer. She
Oh,
just, some of the victims said that she would just show up randomly. Oh, I mean, literally one of the victims or survivors, however you want to call it, literally moved, far away off the grid, and they still found him. And they still
wow.
sent her a letter or something saying, "Yeah, we know you're here." So it's just ugly. Again, these people who have all this wealth. I mean, we know it here in California from Ed Buck. Nobody knows
Yeah.
who Ed Buck is. Democrat funder, gay, just so you know, and that's context, not a condemnation. Democrat funder gave money to Adam Schiff, to Hillary, probably to Obama. And he basically lured black men, found and lured black men, got them high on meth so that he can have his way with them. And then I think two of them were found dead in his apartment at very different times, but they were found dead in his apartment. And he skated for a long, long time. And, they finally caught him on one of the murders, at least. Maybe they're catching him on a few more. But do we hear about that? No. Ted Lieu quietly gave back the money. Representative Ted Lieu quietly gave back the money that he gave him. I don't know if Schiff did. But do we talk about that? We should. This should be known. They're real good about, riding this whole train with Matt Gaetz about an associate who was just a total douche. And he's trying to pin it on Matt Gaetz, and literally nothing is pinnable.
Right.
There's all types of allegations without any actual concrete facts.
Yeah.
And they'll run with that for days. But none of these other people.
The court of public opinion is what matters now, Jennifer. It's not the actual due process. It's the court of public opinion. It's frightening. So you have, and you being a fighter in there is so exciting to watch what you're doing. And God knows with Carmel Foster, talk about another story that got buried. Yes. It got zero amplification, despite the fact that you did such a well-written three-part miniseries that I was on the edge of my seat on. I'm like, when is part 2 coming out? Oh my gosh. Let the days fly by.
So much. Yeah. Carmel definitely still needs justice. Phil Ting is still walking around. He's still the budget chair of California, dictating where the money goes and probably laundering some of it, no doubt. He's got dirty ties everywhere. I'm convinced of it. I just need to prove it.
Yep.
As we all do. But every dog has his day.
And sometimes it takes a while.
It takes
like
a while.
OJ.
And trouble doesn't last. Evil does not reign forever. And so that is that is what I am banking a lot of things on, that somewhere, somehow. That just like Gaetz is being exposed, just like Epstein got exposed.
And we'll be following that as we start seeing more and more, and especially with every week that goes by, we see just how harmful these vaccines are too to certain people. And I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here, but you're
not at all. There are documented cases of people who do not react well to the vaccine, and not just react badly, paralysis. The immune system gets tapped into a different direction that it shouldn't be. Yeah. And so it's causing all of these illnesses and reactions. And I mean, again, it doesn't take away from the use of the vaccine and the importance of a vaccine, to say it causes these other things.
Yeah, and that we need to have
As far as I'm
responsible.
concerned, from my non-medical perspective, you would think that would be able to help you create a better vaccine or help you to know who should be vaccinated and who should not be vaccinated, because everybody doesn't need to be vaccinated. But they don't want to say that. They want everybody vaccinated. They want everybody underneath this blanket of control.
Right. And to know that the RNA is basically putting an informant into your body that can be manipulated by a computer is, very fascinating. That's the whole, mission of Moderna. That really is, that's the E stands for experimental. ERNA, experimental RNA. That's what it is. It's a messenger RNA. And I think the M stands for messenger and then something. Yeah. So, and then experimental RNA. So it's basically going into people's bodies. I mean, people have, and some people's bodies react very violently to that. So that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And, what's shocking to me was that woman who was was menopause, older woman, went through menopause and then started having her periods again after she got the vaccine shots.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
horrible.
pretty free.
It's
what
freaky.
are you doing to your body?
It's freaky. And what are we doing? What are we doing to our society to indoctrinate people in such fear and in dependency on something that is not proven? Why are you, people are like relieved, healthy people. I'm not talking about people who have comorbidities and elderly, healthy young people relieved that they have the vaccine. Oh, now we're saved. It's like, you had a healthy immune system in the first place. Get your body to work the way you need it to work, and you're fine. But again, that's not encouraged. That's not preached.
And that is actually vilified.
And that is exactly, and it's vilified. And that is the danger of all of this. Not the fact that we have a vaccine, not the fact that, it's helping to get on top of COVID, but that our mindset is all whacked out.
It is.
And we're demonizing people and children, destroying our children, as far as I'm concerned. This is the biggest horror that came out of this entire year and a half, is the destruction of children mentally and emotionally, and teaching them to have this shameful thing on their face. We could go on and on. Let's save it for another podcast. For our audience, my light seems to be wanting to go out. It's not a strobe light. I'm not having a party, even though I'd love to.
Put the music on.
Turn the music on. I'm every woman. My light is going out, which is probably a good signal to say we should end this.
Yes.
Follow us, Red Beans and Fried Rice, on Facebook. Red Beans Fried are one on Twitter. And you can find me, As the Girl Turns, at asthegirlturns.com, and As the Girl Turns on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Telegram. Mark.
And you can follow me on Marquis Angus, MERQUES ANGUS, on Twitter and Facebook, and also AIB2B.org is our organization website. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you on the flip side.
Yeah, always a pleasure. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.